Okay then, I think we are recording, my good man. Yes, we are. So Sunday, 23rd of August. I am here today with Brother Josh. We're going to have a casual offline chat. We haven't spoken for a while, and we're going to. We had a topic, didn't we, Josh? You want to say hello and introduce the topic, or I'll get it and.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
It's good to be here and good to see you again, brother. Hi to everybody listening and sending love and light to you all. I thought it'd be a good time, considering a lot of drama and confusion in the world right now, to address the difference between the world and the earth. And I know Dave will be able to bring to light some topics that are going on currently within the media, as I tend to not really look into anything like that, especially for the last few years. But this will always stand true. There's a difference between the world and the earth, the world being the commercial business side and the earth being the natural beauty that exists around us at any given moment. So we'll just maybe go through a few stories, a few things that's happening within the world, and we'll casually bump in what the earth is and how do we get back to it.
Yeah, that sounds quite an on-topic subject to talk about. There's a lot of concern, we'll say, for various parts, elements of the world, the commercial, public side of it, and then that's quite a nice way of separating then the earth itself, Mother Gaia, and the private, natural side, and then we've got the commercial, public, monetary, fiscal, commercial, consumer. To be a consumer in itself is, if you look at the breakdown of that word con, it begins with, and I'll let Josh expand on this after, but the consumer is not a pretty word, and to consume as much, people on YouTube eating as much food as they can in so many minutes, while others in parts of the world starve through nothing more than fiscal deprivation in the fact of governmental and financial geopolitical areas. So commerce and what was brought to you, the French etymology of the corpse and deadness about it, and this could be effectively, if we was all active and naturally positively on the earth, it'd be a better and different, happier, more resonant place than all of us being considered commercially active under UCC, our Maritime Admiralty, and the way that we are assumed to be and considered. So there's the seas, there's the Matoof. I thought we'd come on camp, and we're going to do a nice show for you, a nice roundup of events and feelings. So there is a concern for the markets and the keeping afloat, stopping the waters, the banks from bursting, and the quantitative easing and the printing to infinity. But at what cost, and who's picking up the tab? How will we pay for that? And I don't know, Josh. There's a lot in there relevant to today's, political side of it. There is a call for yesterday that was, I think, World Overshoot Day. This is something that's gone on for 70 years, I think, from 1970 all the way up to yesterday, where I've picked up on it today, and I didn't know there was a World Overshoot Day, so I don't think the camera will pick that up so much, but I got a news snippet there that I post on the community pages, and that's essentially where we mark a year of consuming from the Earth's resources and minerals, and the time it takes for the world to deal with the rubbish that we create and digest it, manage it, and break it down, and the time it takes also for the Earth to replenish all of the minerals and resources that commercial industry is taking, which is our claim of right in essence. It belongs to everybody, not just the corpses, but they're taking various areas, food and building and other such commercial demands, and then the world needs to replenish that. And are we consuming and growing at a rate which is sustainable, or is it non-sustainable, and we have to, so I hold my hands up. I'm not an expert in all areas, and I didn't know about the Overshoot Day. We're aware of political political and pollution and the policies and the agreements that we have. But again, on the yield, Josh, and let you interject with something on all of that, because we could be at a point now of no return. We'll say, couldn't we?
Yeah. I think this is why that it's very important to, within your own beingness, to really get that understanding of the world and the earth. Because if I just say, to me, the world is the illusory side of our existence. The world is something scripture told us not to love or anything in it. But we've become so ingrained in a society that only deals with world issues that we've lost our way with the earth. Now, the world itself is the corporation. It is the illusory devil that's been put in our mind that takes us away from, the natural state of our being. So, for example, if you were consuming food from the commercial realm, you would find that not only has the food been grown with minerals that are waste products from other commercial industries to get rid of them as byproducts, they put plastic and rubbish around the outside of them. So if we look at the sins and the virtues and realize if we're doing things virtuously, this is how our life will work in harmony with the earth. So as we're not doing things as we should be, we're buying products or food from a commercial entity. There's going to be some sort of negative impact on our own bodies, the earth, everything that surrounds us, and what we're engaged in at that time. So the rubbish that you get from the commercial food can't go back to nature for a very long time. But if we were just to consume the food that grows from the ground, for example, a banana, a melon, a mango, the skin or the packaging that comes from creation that you would not consume would either go to feed animals or back into the land. And in the land, it would remineralize the soil. So if we're living virtuously, we're doing things as we should, and we're acting diligently, we know that one, food doesn't cost any money if we grow it ourselves. So in that turn, we can walk away from the commercial side of things, which is why we have to use and exchange money because of what we want or trying to survive during the busyness times. So you can see that one side of that with the commercial side is only destruction and death. And if we can walk to the earth side of it, there's only reciprocation of energy and love. And in that sense, just on that small sentence about food, and this is holistic over anything inside of the commercial side, that it only leads to life or destruction. So the landfill sites and the rubbish from the industry is only in the world, and this does not happen in the nature. So I see if we can start to discombobulate what we've been taught and what we're currently doing, if we can see that, hang on a minute, I don't actually have to be doing this. The world is offering something that I've been trapped in for such a long time that's been controlling my mental state. Hence, the governments and every country is a registered business. So it's only strictly business. So what we need to do is throw out the money changers in due time, but with enough knowledge. We have enough time and we have enough resources and we have enough awakened beings to make a massive transition, a massive change. And this needs to be done now. The commercial world always tells you the truth. You'll always see in good time that something is around the corner and is going to happen. Now, I see there's going to be a food shortage within the next year. But there's not a food shortage with the earth. The food shortage is with the commercial world. And if you can't grow things to sustain your own life and you're relying on an entity that is not alive to grow food for you, for your health and your well-being, and you choose to go to work, which people don't like to go to work because there's a constant war with decay, which is balance between your own beingness, the 11th letter of the alphabet, then we need to make a change. So that's just one side of it. I'll yield there, but if we can just see that two sides here, and as we continue, we'll continue to talk about the two sides. But the world is offering you something which you don't have to take. You can walk away from that world anytime you want and go back to the earth. But what's stopping you is fear. And I think there's only one way to alleviate the fear here, and it's to truly understand the law. You don't need to understand, understand, or overstand every statute, act, but you need to have a holistic understanding of who you are, what you are, and where you stand. So maybe the state is standing in capacity and your true innate beingness here, man versus person. Who are you?
I'm a man who sat in a direct line of raw sunlight and the photons. Yes, 1 minute. I'm just going to draw the blind, if I may. Just 1 second, Jay, and everyone have 2 seconds. Well, well, timing, absolute perfect timing. Sticking out the sun. Good, that should call me. Yeah, that's it. Sorry. Into the dark, better. Thank you, Jane.
That's all right. So could you tell me? I obviously haven't been really involved with anything in the media or on Facebook or anything like this, but the world offers a lot of confused ions, so confusion. Now, is there a lot of confusion at the moment with a lot of people seeking truth or lost, or they're worried about certain subjects that maybe you could bring to light?
We've got we've got a lot of concern with the facts and the figures that aren't really facts. So we've got fact checkers and the media reporting on deaths and associated deaths with regards to a possible strain of a COVID, coronavirus number 19, and then we're hearing other conflicting stories from around the world. Such men as Godfrey Bloom have recently spoken out and said they are men that have survived the Spanish flu and other types of great times of war, to be fair, were in effect, and they didn't close pubs. And it's come across with a view and some points, and it appears that the figures have been massaged. It appears the principal trustees in office, like Matt Hancock, the health department, Chris Whitty, the chief scientific medical officers, are fudging figures, they're double counting stuff. They're not getting this test, track and trace right. They're boasting about having world-beating technologies when they're not. They haven't. They're lying blatantly out in the public. The media are backing them up. They're making claims of crimes on the news where Michael Gove and Boris Johnson and Dominic Cummings were all on there saying that when they can't see properly, they all get in a car and drive, knowing that they can't see properly, to make sure that they can't see properly. Now, anybody else would get an eye test, and they've come out on national TV, Josh, and said such mad things. And I remember at the beginning of all of this, everyone, where a man named Boris, called Boris, who acts as the Prime Minister and the First Lord of the Treasury in the United Kingdom, he said the buck stops with him. So it will be looking like this fiasco and debacle in the figures and the concern. We've got resonance, which is very bad. We have a high amount of fear. We've had a loss of confidence in even the teachers and the schools and the grading. Footballers speaking up to try and advise the government about how to look after families that are on the breadline in times of hardship. And we shouldn't be in these situations. We're a reactive nation, unfortunately, the UK, and there's man on Britain trying to help, an exodus effectively and a transfer of good, viable information. And none of this is new, and it's quite old. And Josh is on the side of the information rainbow spectrum, where he gets to give a lot of joy and good by introducing food and changes of ways of life that aren't new age. They're actually scientifically, chemically, alchemically. When I say chemically, well, you're not scientists and you're not pharmacists. Well, we are in our own right, private alchemists. Anybody that likes to cook and prepare food, welcome to the world of alchemy. You didn't know you was an alchemist, but cooking is a basic form of simple alchemy. Fats, sugars, acids, a combination, applied heat, a length of time, a desired result, and we get into this later through the periodic table of elements on a different level for energy, magnetism, conductivity, the brain, how it works, the body, the systems, and all of this. So we've got a lot of appointed academics to summarise on all of that it's really bad. Nobody trusts nobody. Everybody's telling lies. It's all a political, commercial cover-up. You've got Billy Goat Gates and Zuckerberg there, allowed to speak and advise. We're shutting the mouths of doctors, and we're having people like Dr. Fauci and Trump rely upon military possibly, coming out here. We've got a lot of misguided, fearful, good souls that don't know what to believe or where to turn. So it's going to get to a pinnacle, Josh, where we have to save ourselves, because I, for one, don't recognise those idiots that have come out on a public arena and lied and caused damage and harm, bad policy and the way that they run, because I like to manage my own health and affairs and stuff. But this will need sorting out, if anybody can recommend a nice holistic. Josh may have a number for me as well there, but if that doesn't work out, then yeah, I'd like to us to look after ourselves in some way. And we have a lot of old information that isn't new, that can help out. I'm on the other end of the spectrum, where we don't make a lot of friends, because we go around telling people, informing people, not telling them things that they don't wish to hear and that they don't want to know. And generally, we don't make a lot of friends from it. We're not in it to make friends or allies and numbers and stuff, but we have information which is equally as critical. It's very old, and we're trying to change the consciousness of those that view it now. And I believe these pressured, uncertain, scary times of war, which aren't really war, but it is like a war in effect, has shattered the realm of a great many of our family, and they are looking for thought leaders and information and validation to what is in the mainstream in the world and what the earth can actually offer, my earth brother.
Hey,
Yeah.
yes, I mean the earth itself is abundant. The only thing is the hands of man, or the hands of the commercial side, has took away the abundance and captivated everybody's imagination and made them see an illusion, which is the opposite of what the earth does. So, for example, in the world, you'll have such things as water shortages. When you go for a drive down the road and you can see the oceans and you'll see lakes and you'll see everything, when the shortage of water is not actually the world, sorry, it's not actually the earth that has a shortage of water. It's the cycling of the water within your commercial and localized governments. So from your city councils, depending on where you live, um, you will have a different entity that governs the water system. So if the sun's drinking the water in the summer, as well as the normal cycling of water, and it can't keep up, that's why there's a shortage of water. So what we must do is understand that the world is telling us one thing when the earth is offering us something else. So if water can be taken from us, or we can be controlled or told to use when to use water, it's up to us in our own consciousness to understand and collaborate and to get ourselves back to the earth, where we can actually consume as much water in an abundant state as we wish. And not only will the water be clean and mineralized by the creation, it won't have added chemicals in there to purify or to clean, or to just mask off certain diseases that are very harmful to man. While the water is containing the fluoride, the aluminium, all the chemicals, the pesticide residues, the hormones from all the pills that women are taking. It's just a massive imbalance of uncoordinated mess that's just creating havoc within everybody's systems. And not only is that water that's being drunk from those taps is causing havoc in the earth, it's really causing havoc in your beingness, and it's stopping your connectivity and your receptivity and your raising of perception with the divine. So that's just one thing, the water side of it. So if the world's telling you one thing, it doesn't mean it's just true in the state of the earth. The world is overpopulated. Yes, if you drive to the world, which is a city or a commercial zone, you'll see that people are living on top of each other, and this is no way to live. But the conditioning of man over time has made it feel, special that they're living in a penthouse suite on top of 25 other flats looking over a city full of lights, when you could be on top of a mountain, breathing fresh air around no one, listening to nature restore an harmonious way with your balance. Again, the earth is not overpopulated. The world is overpopulated. So the commercial zone is telling you that there is not enough space, there is not enough water, there is not enough food in the world, which is the commercial zone. And the commercial zone wastes 1/3 of the world's food, proper food, fruit consumption, and it goes to waste.
Right.
Now, we're not sure whether this goes into landfill, onto gardens, onto anything. I'm pretty sure it would just go to waste and it wouldn't be replenishing any part of the earth itself. So if that's happening to your world, you must see that the world is getting destroyed slowly, but the earth remains the same. The illusions in the matrix, the illusions with the commercial zone, the illusion are thought forms put out there by the governmental for your consciousness to see, to attach to either fall trap to, or overcome. And in doing so, there's a multitude of thought forms that are injected into the matrix via intelligence agencies. And these here are for your own awareness. It's not really going against you. But the truth of the matter is, you're born into this wavelength for you to overcome the idea that you can be governed, the idea that you are governed, the idea, if we look at it from an egoic state, the world is dominated by an ego, whether it be a commercial ego, your own ego, someone else's ego, is only driven by that side of man. Now, the earth, there's no ego with the earth. If you live upon the hill and you're with your own or your kin or your friends or your family, and you're not engaged in any other thought form or material stuff from the world, you'll see that the ego is not really there at all. The only things children quabble over, material stuff. The only thing adults want, material stuff. The thing that you all need comes from the earth. And that's healing, is cleansing, and it will connect you back to your own divine nature. But there's something implanted in us so deep rooted that's put in every single film out there, and that's the fear. The fear holds everybody back because they don't feel like they're empowered. So it's a step-by-step process to empowerment. And once you feel empowered enough, I suggest that if you can, within the next 6 months, collaborate, work together with your friends and family and get growing. Find a piece of land, take a piece of land, go to the land registry, find out what they own, and start planting, because you need to become masters of your own reality. The earth will heal you. You don't need to pay for anything on the earth. The best things in life are for free. And everything that costs money causes a strain. It takes you away from your family. It takes you away from your children. It takes you away from the garden. It takes you away from your enlightenment. And it takes you away from everything that is healing. So if you can start to see the picture and perceive something other than the world that you're stuck in, it's a really great time to change and be that light that can shine the way for many other beings just to follow you. Because once they've done the transition, they'll activate themselves as well. You know, somebody needs to do the walk and do the work. And then within their being, something truly changes that's magical, and consciousness rises within you. And this symbiotic relationship with you and the earth is Midgard, but it's got many different planes on it, different planes of existence. You and I exist on the same earth, but we all have different worlds. Now, that's just a dimension of thought that we all perceive differently, but there's only one truth. Can we find it? Where is it? It's all inside of us, and it's all around us. And I know that you spoke quickly, sorry, Dave, on the COVID. I think on the World Health Organization website, it actually states that the COVID-19 is no different than a common flu. The only thing is the hype around it has made beings believe, and that's why lie is written in believe, because it's not true. It's just a belief that something other than inside of you is creating havoc. Now, if you understand what a virus is, you would know straight away that there's nothing to fear. But because we're getting information off the media, of the doctrine that's been put there for everybody in a commercial zone to create and treat commercial patients to make money, not to heal or cleanse, you will see that a virus is something internally inside of your body that takes out bacteria that's of the bad state. then you have something in your body called bacteria, which then will help break down the natural foods that you're consuming. And this is the nice bacteria they talk about being, probiotics, etc. But truly, there's bacteria in your body that degrades the food, and this is the perfect relationship that you need inside the body. Then you have fungus, and fungus in the body tends to eat dead matter. So the reason why most people in the acidic environment consuming dead food and dead flesh, etc., have so much yeast, which is the candida, which is cancer, is because it needs to be there to consume the death that you're consuming, so that will grow. So if we can understand viruses, bacteria, and fungus and what it does within our body, we should be able to let go of all the fear from the coronavirus. Because you can't catch a virus. Viruses are internalized within you and are a part of your immune system.
Yeah, well said. We seem to be looking at treating symptoms as well, and not the actual root cause of not of this, because this is like the common cold and the flu. Many have inoculations for the flu every year, but yet the flu is still around. So, the same for this viral type affliction that we're seeing, and the low death rates that are really being recorded rather than spurious, death certificates that we've seen. So that when we look at how man treats a problem, we often, the GP will give you a script, a scribe will write something, a general practitioner, so actually military man again, will give you a script for treatment of the symptoms. When Josh breaks down the word diagnosis, and you've got dia and gnosis, and how a doctor should know with his knowledge, if I remember right, and I think I'm on the right lines, that with his acumen of the biological functioning of the anatomy, the atomy of man, he will then use that, and he will find what's displaying the symptom. He will show him the symptom, and he will go, I know what causes that symptom, and he'll do some tests, and then he'll give you for the diagnosis, the prognosis, and the actual script for the what used to be a herbalist. You'd get herbs from the witch doctor or from the chief of staff, that man with a wooden stick that they imitate with the military chief of staff. So the comparables are there, bullers, and you've got the diagnosis from the general practitioner that will only treat the symptoms, and he's like, well, if I've got these symptoms, there must be an underlying problem that we need to tackle and basically eliminate, and then the symptoms will go. But mainly what we're seeing, and why we've got a concern, is my man here can come along and find that root problem quicker than a GP, cheaper than a GP, and give better results than a GP. And that's like your assessment for work capability and so forth with the Department for Work of Pensions that give you a health care assessment, which isn't a medical assessment. It's like the judge that said to Brother Kevin, in my opinion, this is a valid contract. To which Brother Kevin went, well, we're not here for your opinion, with all due respect there, my honour. Now, can you answer within the lawful realm? Is that something which constitutes a contract at law? She took another look and went, no, it doesn't. And she said, well done. So this is where we're at. It's a slight change of word for some, but the bottom line is what we're doing is unforgivable, and it comes down to the seriousness of that we can, like Josh has said, treat one another. And then this is the last segue. I wrote down fluoride earlier at the beginning of Josh's last chapter there. He said something about natural and the earth and the way that it is and how it comes, and the skins of a fruit and a vegetable, and decomposition and self-management, self-governance, self-law, I self-law and master. So here's a little alarm bell for ones that are, thank you for joining, and if you're new to us and you're wondering who Josh is, we'll get some references and the links in the video description of this Sovereign Stars show for you all. So, fluoride. There's naturally occurring fluoride, and there's chemically made byproduct fluoride. Now, in nature, when you have a factory and it has these chimneys, the cooling towers, and the steam that's emitted from the mass production of this processed food and products that we must have, the chimneys have got to catch all of the fluoride emissions from that factory. If any of that fluoride escapes from that chimney into the surrounding environment, don't believe me and don't take Josh's word, even though it's worthy and I'll vouch for it. Do your research and your diligence and check out what industrial fluoride does and what the regulatory control and the regulations are for industrial fluoride in the environment. And then the seriousness of that is in within that finding you're about to. And if you know, kudos and well done. So stay with me, the ones that already know how dangerous this is. We then clean those chimneys and we collect that unmanageable fluoride that cannot get out into the environment because of the limitations and the acts and the procedures and the pollutiveness of it, and we collect it up and we put it into things like food and whatever products, commercial products, maybe toothpaste, maybe water. You might get water from the spring of Buxton that's pure and mineral filtered, and some companies will add fluoride to that pure water that's in a plastic bottle. I'm like, really? Sometimes we have moments where we have to just calm ourselves and think, wow. So I'll leave it there. Commercially produced fluoride, very dangerous, but it's good for your teeth, says the man with the tooth missing. It's nothing to do with fluoride. I had an accident when I was younger, and root canals, silly things on motorbikes and bikes, and now it's come to the time it needed replacing. Just so happened we were in lockdown, and I'm having difficulty locating a suitable replacement. So forgive me for that appearance, but it's the information that counts, not the overall image. Don't let it distract you from the importance of that, shocking revelations we find. So, Josh, over to you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll see that worldly and earthly fluoride do the opposite of each. The fluoride that's with the earth is there, and it has a noticeable effect to strengthen your bones and teeth and hair and nails and these types of things, but it's only an organic element and is bioavailable. If we're talking about the fluoride that's found from the phosphate industries, the aluminium smelting that's all in the chimneys, what it does is the opposite of what the earth's minerals are doing. So this is actually weakening your bone structure. So if you consume just a medium amount of fluoride, you'll find that there's a very high rate of dental fluorosis. This is usually starts with white little spots on the teeth, and then it leads to pitted teeth and the damage and decay of the enamel. And if we still don't see these symptoms and treat them and remove the fluoride from our diet, it still accumulates in the body. And this is when it becomes very dangerous. It goes into something called skeletal fluorosis. So not only is it hitting the teeth, but it goes into the skeletal system, and it does the same as it is to the teeth, the bones. And it gets in
Yeah.
all the connective tissue and causes discomfort and movement. And eventually you'll find yourself in constant pain. And this is through fluoride that is of the world and is found in products that are commercial and you have to go to work to pay for. And this is something that the world creates because you're not supposed to be in the commercial zone. You're supposed to, as a being of God, seeking and finding the light, is to remove yourself from the money changers by your own free will and find yourself an exit Babylon. Now, Babylon to me is a necessary need. It's a necessary form of evil. It's be able on. Now, able is the other ball, the right side of the ball, the by ball, from the one ball that you have to the next ball, there's possibility. Now, the possibility word says POSS. This is the two S's of the two sine wave, and then you have the abilities, and they can only come from the ability, which is a by light. And the by lights are found within you, and you connect into the Mother Earth, and that frequency will reciprocate inside your nature and raise your consciousness. Kundalini, the K that underlines the I. This is very important about the perfect balance. So yeah, that's just a simple thing on fluoride. The world is offering us one thing and the other. And when you were speaking about corona, I have a personal friend of mine who come to me when I come back from traveling, just to try and find a wonderful space to start a wonderful food forest and a wonderful healing place where people can come, learn to find their self and heal correctly and learn and grow in consciousness and expand it as much as they can. So he told me that his mum's best friend died, unfortunately, from a heart attack. And the doctors put it down as a coronavirus. It's locally and localized to me. And they're trying to sue them right now for the misdiagnosis of a heart attack slash stroke for it being coronavirus. Now, this isn't just one, this is many people. But again, This is the commercial side, which is full of lies, and there's no truth. For example, the news and the media tell us something because it's new, but never ever has the news told us that it's true. Not once have they ever said this is a factual show with factual information that's showing you the actual facts from the material world. And there's nothing true about it. You might get the odd story that's a local story, but really there's always an edge behind the media machine, and that media machine always tries to attach stories and thought forms to your mind so you can attach to, get lost into, or to rise above and overcome. So I'll keep saying this throughout the show. You can start to focus on all the negative things that the media machine's been pushing out there as lies. But if we innately know that the media machine is a BS lie machine, then we can know that nothing from that source is trusted. Everything is illusory. There's one thing that's always remained here and never left us. It's the earth. There's another thing inside of us that's always been here and never left us. This is the self. And the self, you could say, is the Buddha inside of you, or it's your enlightenment. Now, this self is the observer of all the actions that's happening within your physical nature or your avatar. You have thoughts that dance around all day, and this is you and your ego having a left and right battle. If you can quiet down the thoughts and observe them, see them for what they are, don't let it attach to your emotion, you won't find any electromagnetic barring from the embarrassment, or you won't find anything that can affect you. And in doing so, you can use your perception to perceive. And this is the highest form of your consciousness, is to be able to observe without thoughts or attachments. So try to practice on that, and that will really help you in overcoming the world, because the world is just full of thought forms that are here to manipulate you, confuse you, and it's something that we do not need. But it's necessary for your evolution of consciousness. So don't get trapped in uncovering lies. Find the truth and share the truth, because
Or
it's
distracted. Weapons of mass distraction are out there at the minute, cues and Masara Jasaras, rather than as man focusing on, we've got a lot of, we try to say about the time you spend and where you spend it, how much time speaking to friends that is really strangers on Facebook and arguing or being positive, and how much time you put into that. Are you getting a reward from it? Is it just lapping your energy? It's an environment now where we have to focus. Time is in high demand and short supply. We've got a lot of distraction, or weapons of mass distraction, and some cutting edge. In a time of information being so abundant, ignorance is truly a choice now. We don't bring you anything that's new. Josh and I have both got gnosis and a combined, score here of a lineage of history of at least 8,000 years. It's not anything that we're bringing that's new. When you come to the fundamental basics of what works for us and how each and in our different dynamics, and together with a cosmic quantum connection that we get from our liquid crystal vibratory display, it allows, it expands, and it meets and it joins, and we are in a time where we can stand on the shoulders of giants. And unfortunately, what we see as we look around is man is unfortunately not doing that, and they are knelt at the feet of greed for one reason and another. And the brain in itself, with its consciousness and with its focus, one of the most powerful items, organs, things, creations, entities, matter and consciousness going. And it is a journey, it is a discovery in many ways and forms, whether you come to it for your health reasons, or family concerns and health, or legal reasons and family, legal and health and family, they kind of all enroped in each other at one point or another, wills and property and trusts, and unexpected deaths and wrongly recorded deaths. And how much money does a hospital get, everybody, when somebody passes away? Josh, I don't think you saw the video of the Rashid family that Sky News brought. It was from September last year, where the dad was stopped from going to his daughter. How much money does a hospital get when someone passes away is the point. So before I forget that, we'll have that now. And what happened was the daughter was not planned to have the life support turned off, Josh, and they were told randomly out of surprise on one day that it's happening, that they're going to look at turning the systems off. And the dad and the mum were doctors, and the dad was a respiratory expert, doctor, physician, knowledgeable for 10 years. And he said, because of the genetics of the Asian bloodline, the Rashid family, and because they hadn't tried a certain drug, an element together before the hospital, they said, we urge you and we don't want the life support to be turned off. What we want to do is try another option, and there's some drugs you haven't tried that have worked before that we'd like you to consider. And now doctors and surgeons, and remember you've got your Surgeon General on the ward there, your midwife, you've got your sister. So there's a church in the States, a military installation. It's not friendly, it's contract based. I'd argue Ecclesia and UCC ultimately running this show. You're the beneficiary, or you should be, but in some cases, organs are presumed to be given and consented to be given. If you haven't opted out, they presume you consent. And so we have undercurrents here of operations in certain areas. I just want to put that in there as well. I'm not saying that's at play now, but remember, if you haven't said the organs are to be left alone, they will harvest them and recycle them. So back to the point, they said what they said about the alternative drugs, the genetics and the past, and the doctors refused. They didn't give any talk, they didn't take them to a room. Incidentally, the dad said he's going to go back to the daughter and stay with her. And they said, we're not doing it now, but we're just letting you know. And he then went to walk back to the daughter's bed, and he was stopped by a doctor or a surgeon or a nurse, and he ran in front of the pathway to the bed. And so the dad tried to get past, because a dad trying to get to his daughter that's been told might be going to see the creator soon. He's going to be on a mission. You can imagine what that dad's thinking and how he feels. So he's not going to be stopped by somebody that volunteered through their own volition to run from the other side of the room, his words, on Radio 4 and Sky News, not mine, and Channel 4 News, Radio 4 and Sky News. I watched 3 reports. And he ran and he put himself in the line of the dad. And so the dad got past, and then the guy's gone and made a report to the police. There's concern of abuse and threatening behaviour to a nurse at the hospital. Can you come? So with the police hearing that, you know, they've turned up and they've stopped then the dad from interfacing with the daughter. The dad suffered a heart attack, suffered aloud. The dad had inflicted upon him because of the undue stress and attention and care here in this medical facade by the officers pulling them. He's then suffered a mini stroke. The mum's crying because she's now thinking, I'm going to lose my daughter and my husband's having a heart attack. All we wanted to do was have... So when we sit here and we have these chats, it's not nice outside. You're in the army in one way or the other. Assumed, man Josh and man David are not in the army. Our persons are, and we will declare and claim and proclaim and use all of the covenants, rights and procedures and laws that we see fit. So to close down, in life, there are natural, divine, positive. When I say Hermetica, and it began in the Hermetica, it really did, in my opinion, from my concise knowledge. And they're natural, immutable, fixed laws. Your body and my body, if we walk off a cliff, we'll fall off the cliff. If a little cat, a little kitten walks off that cliff, do you think the immutable laws of nature think, oh dear, that kitten, oh, you know, God, shall we suspend temporarily the laws of the universe to save an innocent kitten? Or do you think the laws, the natural laws, the immutable, divine, positive, non-man-made, earthly, Gaia-type laws are going to stop that cat? No, that cat's going to learn the hard way. And that's how life is. And that's how it is out there in the earth. The lion will eat the wounded gazelle, and that's, you know, the lion doesn't go, oh, it's a shame you've got a bad leg, isn't it? I really have got a dilemma now. I'm hungry and I don't want to eat you because it goes against my moral. No, the lion doesn't have any moral ethics, law of the jungle. So we are here to say, you follow the natural laws and you utilize them, you free yourself from the pollution and the poisons and the lead weights and the mental fog, and a third brain opens, if you like. You're the only one that bridges both left and a right brain control, and that becomes the control center. The pineal is activated. You lose many things. Buddha, what have you gained from meditation? See what he said to that answer. It's not what I've gained, it's what I've lost. So we look at these laws and we respect them because they will affect your body and age it. And when the cells can't reproduce, you'll end up dying and pass on. Nobody can change that. Those laws are fixed. Your body, whether you're aware of them or whether you're ignorant to them, like the kitten off the cliff, your body will age and it will die. You can't, no man I know can stop that happening. Those are the laws we speak of. Now, when we look at the man-made laws and the statutes and the codes, and if you're across the pond in the Commonwealth and the penal, ex-penal, colonised, the colonial waters, etc., then you have the codes and the penal codes there to enforce you, which are man-made. They're not biblical, they're not natural, and look how much trouble and heartache. How can women and children and men starve legally? We call that murder on the street, and I yield. Well,
But the thing is, if they're legally dead and they're not alive, then there's no reason to supply food to people that aren't alive. This is where the understanding of how things are put out there for you, because if you truly understand the whole way the system has been laid out, it's literally an egoic versus the consciousness. So you've got to establish some sort of consciousness within you. And if there's a seeker, you'll find that it is your time. Just like you were saying with that lion that catches the gazelle, those
yeah.
those animals are at that level of consciousness because the consciousness or the energy within inside those animals there is on its own evolutionary path. Now the predators are before our time, predators.
Yeah.
So they're not on the same level of awareness. So we all have been through, as an energetic form, some sort
And
of
that, go on, sorry.
carnival.
But
Carry
can
on.
I just say
Yeah.
that's key you say that because they don't get affected by the universal laws like we'll say the one that's known as karma or it's got the God's law or it's got many names different but you know which one I mean. The lion and the animal kingdom have got a lower rate consciousness so for that reason they don't get into this. This is what I've experienced with Josh and Santos and many of you described and YouTube and even Facebook. Yeah, I'll say it. It's got some good things about it. Not many, but very limited few. This is because we, as a consciousness, when you do have that left and a right balance, and you have to look in and you go through the world of pain and you analyze yourself and you deal with your scars and your demons and your the weight you're carrying and you go through that you're active to that consciousness again growing is more than it's like you have a more serious stronger greater attuned relationship to the consciousness what we say it's not new age it's actual quantum consciousness dynamics here it's a cosmic quantumness there's a film called Superhuman I'm going to get you to watch, Josh, if you don't mind. It's on the home pages of SPLs, and I've got some good documentaries which are on the quantum type, next level. So yeah, the consciousness is what Josh said there with the animals and man. Man is subject to different laws to animals because of our consciousness, and that's why we can't escape it. But if you interface with it and you play the game initially, it's like a game, and you can see the pathway. It's not the same for everybody. You've all got different things to do with it. It's not my relationship with it. You interface. The consciousness it's because we are at that level of consciousness that you say your life is cursed, or you might go around blaming everybody for your bad luck. But there is no such thing as luck, it's coincidence, and the predatory environment was given because it doesn't matter if you're handicapped, you'll get eaten. And in this environment, we have these laws which allegedly save the handicapped, which is why Sir Ian Duncan Smith got his knighthood, like Christmas just gone in 2019, for sanctioning and taking money off the handicapped and less able, which is why we pay agencies, to go out there and operate and manage on our behalf, which is you should be looked after if you are less able, and we try to do that here. But out there in the legal realm, it's like lambs to the slaughter. Those that need protecting go to ask for help, and the help that they get is often worse than if they didn't have any, sad to say, because we're all viewed as a negative. It's an all-consuming wrong environment out there. So the consciousness is a key part. You was on about predators, Josh, and consciousness. I'm sorry, but it does actually have a key element there, man. Because people say to me, why doesn't it affect the animals, Dave? When we go on about the way that we see energy, matter, consciousness, our actions, why we do what we do, why we give up our free time, why we pray for others. And when I say that in our own way. We've got a special way. The power of intent and the law of attraction are the most quietest languages, the most powerful language I've found. Is the most quiet one. And coming from jibber jabber, hyperactivity, indigo, a go go, crazy horse. That you should take that a lot. You should take a lot from that. And in the courtroom, when the language of silence we brought to you, that's where I first found it. But the language of silence in this realm, it's the most powerful, and it's an interface every day. Your DNA interfaces with it. You constantly give out and receive. So the dietary side and the health mental side and your heart, your head, and your gut being in tune with the balanced brain, you are some powerful unit. Let me tell you now. I yield.
That's the energy centers, what you just explained, and all your energy stored within your gut system. But yeah, so going on the energy centers, I think, animals tend to have about 5 energy centers. We have 7. We have the chakras, the house of the sun, or if you want to translate it down to each letter, is seeing the vibration of the alpha balance with the sun sine wave. So what you need to do is understand that you have a much more conscious, developed energy system within your being that allows you to have full consciousness capabilities here. But knowing the word capabilities, there are capped abilities, and these abilities have been capped by the illusory world, by the food, by the thought forms, by the education. Absolutely everything in there is enough to trap your consciousness into a materialistic world. Earlier on, you said consciousness and matter. Now, consciousness was there and matter come from consciousness. So in knowing that, we must know that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And this has all come from the ment. And the ment being the hermetic principle which you were saying.
Not the
But
basement, but the top men. We've moved from the basement to the floor. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it's the basement. And this word comes from the hermaphrodite, which is, the balance between the man and the woman. So the principles of the energy fields, the positive and negative, the yin, the yang, the masculine, the feminine, it's about merging these two energies together. If we look at spirit and mind, what we need to do is to really see and discover that there's a balance inside of us that allows divinity to just flush your whole system. And until we've become balanced, we'll never experience it, we'll never perceive it, we'll find it hard to believe it. But how do we do it? You have to take initial steps, and it's about your work. You cannot sit back and watch the world to try to change. There's always been a money system, there's always been a matrix, there always will be these things here for evolution of consciousness. And until everybody is ready for the next stage, there's always a purpose for a government. Because unless beings are able to govern themselves, i.e., provide water, food, shelter for their families, there needs to be this system in place. It's very simple to walk away from it. Very, very simple. But again, it's the fear that traps us. So as you were talking about the lion, if we understand that even in the animalistic behaviors, there's a set program, and if we are in tune with the animals, we would not get eaten. Because if you stare a lion in the face, or you stand up to an elephant that's stomping towards you, they cannot, due to their programming, attack
I
you.
know. I've seen the video of a man that stands up to a lion that comes with his nose. He sees it in the grass, and he's doing and as he turns around, it keeps getting closer, like on a cartoon when they creep up and then they stop, like on Scooby. I'm thinking there, if you're wondering, and the gang. But he then turns around and he says, "I'm doing this live. There's no retake. This is how you do it." And he turns around. He says, "You see that lion? You know it's there. We all know it's there because when I next turn around, it's going to go." And as he turned around, it was really close, and he kept on it, and he shouted at it, and it legged it. And I was like, "Whoa, that was you don't get a second take on that one, I'm afraid." And he did it, Josh. So incredible. You're right. I've seen it, and I didn't believe it. I thought, wow. But it's like facing the judge. The judge is a lion. He's going to eat you. He's going to take your estate. He's going to take your assets, your property, your children, the agent at the door. Big Barry Barracuda coming. They're all coming to actually eat you up. It's not a nice way of putting it, comparison for some, and you didn't think it was like that. Well, yes, it is. It's a deceptive world out there. Reality is more than illusion, a very persistent one in many ways, and it's gone from a cult. A cult, you think Satan, I read you think black magic and so forth, but it just means secret. A cult, you look at the Latin, I can't remember now how it goes, a cultatis or something, is it? Don't quote me, but the Latin for a cult and where it comes from, the derivative, and the oculi, oculi, the ocule is the eye. You'll find if you go into the anatomy again, oculus, yeah, I'm getting it, the lens, the receptor to see the information, and you look at the Black's Law, got a medical dictionary next door, that would help right now, but no, it'll be later, stuff like that, you see. So then we go from why it's important because of the language to control the etymology. The information that we're finding, I did tell you that we're going to discover an old language which is going to be new to us, and there are many of these languages, not just the worldly spoken common tongue languages, but not the sign and the body, but the other languages we're finding that have been suppressed and kept occult. And it's interesting. It's very much a self journey, but there's certain things out there that's from in the old days. When I say that, pre-Judeo-Christianity, BC, and before, thousands of years, just about 10,000 years to the Great Kings List that they found where they depict all of the reigns of. There seems to have been a global, harmonious sharing of knowledge and food and wealth. They were even shipping megalithic blocks thousands of miles. So they're obviously chatting and talking because that man's got that man's block from 2,000 miles, 500 miles away. There was everywhere and all at once sharing, and they would look to be healthy, strong, and kick ass. You've seen the rocks and the tools and the markings in India and around the places in Lebanon, and what they say was done in Bronze Age Palestine as a tribute to it's incredible, and we seem to have become reliant on the nanny state and sucking on that boob, and we refuse to do it, Josh, anymore, I'm afraid. I yield.
That's exactly right, my brother. So yeah, I mean, it's very important for us to just break the fear. The thing that we always hold ourselves back on, and it allows us to get eaten, is by not speaking up and having that fear. Now, innately, we know something's wrong with the way the system is. It doesn't really take a genius to figure that out. What it does is it takes a genius to realize who he is. And inside that knowingness, you will never, ever break or give in to that fear cycle that they give you. So, there's a lot of fear, I presume, going around right now that's within the ideology or the belief that people have to get themselves vaccinated, or they're going to.
We wasn't strong before. We was expecting Brexit, and that got cancelled and laid off and suspended. They're not the right words, but I'm not getting into that now. And then we've got the surprise visit in mid-March, late March of this virus that, even the fact that Belgium found some samples in 2019, October, they didn't find it until, I think, April, May 2020, but they looked at some samples they took, Germany, 2019, COVID traces found there, Germany, didn't start in Wuhan, all the things that people are talking about. They were anxious anyway of Brexit and economical over this side on Britain. Britons were about the UK's exit and the marriage ending between the European Union. That was superseded by this fiasco, and there was a lot of anxiety with the mental health, bad management of benefits, people, being on the breadline, hardship, using food banks. What kind of strong nation can't educate its dwellers, aborigines, and can't feed them? Who wouldn't put a system in that looked after themselves? Here we are. So there was a lot of breaking of Babylon crumbling, the corporate city of London and its offshore tax havens and the usurpation and austerity and other measures that have come to light have drained our rich resources here, as they have elsewhere, everywhere with the central bank, we'll say, yeah. And if you haven't got a central bank, then that's why you generally have a war happen. Surprise. So we're seeing the after effects, and there was anxiety in the family. It was a news report, 10 families a day, a week, we'll go a week, but I'm sure it was a day, I can't be certain. 10 families a week or souls are dying whilst waiting for personal independent payment from the agency of the work and pensions, government, job centres, etc. Capita Maximus, I don't know, there's that many of them now. And the stories that were coming out were horrendous. The police institutionally racist, the courts maybe not operating correctly, the house of God and the religion and the lies and the it is lies, I'm afraid, to be fair, telling us that women are a temptation and translation, mistranslation, encoding of Romans and what we've got here, lost souls. It was a bad state of affairs before all of this, and the anxiety that will have occurred extra unnecessarily because of Chris Whitty and the scientific advice and the controversy and the mass media and the echoing of the mainstream narrative is pretty much sickening. It is a crime to have all this technology, quantum computer capabilities, the space missions under our belt, rockets and astronauts. Allegedly, our flat Earth crew, I hear you, I know, calm down. What I'm saying is, allegedly, all of this superior technology. But let's look at medicine, money, transport and education. They're all ancient technologies that don't seem to move forward very far. But look at everything else since the 1800s and how fast it's gone now. It's embarrassing, it really is. Lemon, Josh, talk to me about, just because we're getting to the end, we've had an hour and stuff, I know it's not going to be an all-nighter, but to get back to world and earth, vaccines, aluminium, poisons, Bill Gates, Africa, Kissinger. I've got some PDFs that I've released everybody that you can find on YouTube channel and the Facebook and the .com about the reports that a Washington White House checked and looked at from Henry, I don't know if you know Kissinger, and his involvement with Vietnam and certain things and publications that have come out. So we have academic roots and the world roots and these tycoons and ministries and parliamentary and the presidency, congressional access routes, and then we have our way, which is holistic, tribal, herbalist way, and natural, universal, immutable laws. Lemon juice and alkalinity, not just because lemon juice is the most popular, and viruses. Can a virus live in a bloodstream that has got a lot of alkalinity from things like lemons and citruses and not much acid, which is sugar? You look and tell me, Josh, any virus, disease, microorganism that afflicts man's blood system, anyone that really excels in acidic, simple things like this that are just obfuscated from the mainstream media that we use every day quite effectively, yeah?
Yeah, the lemonade. You can see that it was something put there for us, but it's not the lemonade. It contains the sugar. The lemons are one of the most alkalizing fruits to our body, whether it be a 3.5 acidic under litmus paper in its natural form. It's actually alkalizing to our body, and very much so. And the reason why is because anything that's acidic form into the body is because it's not a natural form, one that has to be transmuted into a glycogen or a glucose for the body to use. So anything other than simple fruits that contain glucose cause our body to have an acidic change. And if we overconsume these things, and depending on how toxic things are, it depends on the state of our being. I mean, we can really, really, truly see what one's ingesting, just how they look like. You can see what type of medication someone's on by what they look like. You can see what disease they have by what they look like. And these things are very uncommon for a doctor who sees patients every day, for them to have the sight to be able to see these things. But for somebody who's aware and conscious and understands the physiology in the food, it's very simple. It's very obvious. You can see what food types they consume, even the type of behavior that's coming from the entity. So yeah, it's something that just you all have the ability to do. You really, truly, if you understand the body and the food, it's just a matter of time before clairvoyance appears within you. The telepathic capabilities, they are just blocked. Your amino acid coding can be increased, but the food that you consume, most people out there would be from commerce or commercial world, which restricts you. So it would only be grown with like the NPK, and it would have a lesser form of amino acids. The higher form of amino acids can bring in new code and new DNA, but if you truly know who you are, you're God in a physical body, and you can write your own code. You can create your own code. Your DNA can be manipulated in a matter of seconds just by your own intent, your own will.
That's a nice, yeah, it's a nice later point to get to. I'm not disputing that, but just for the basic area, dietary changes that you would make or suggest would be to maybe on one day of the week look at, whenever it is, changing, laying out the next week's diet, and when you go shopping, normally that day is a good day to do it on the day you go shopping. When I say one day a week, and look at what you're going to buy this week and ask yourself, is there anything I could change? Could I eat less of? And the alkalinity of the blood is what I'm after, because we eat a lot of processed sugars. And, what you said there with the glucose in the body and the kidneys and the blood and the filtration, we need to then counteract that. And a quick, simple thing that we talked about before was the alternatives to lemon and how we alkaline the body. Which is to take the sugary level down once in a while, will benefit you greatly. And I talked about it, doing it before bed, having some water and a lemon juice and just drinking that, going to sleep, let that be in your body, going around for 6 to 8 hours if you're lucky, and then go and start your day that way. And at night time, try to, if you can't, like me, you're not a saint and you still have sugar in your coffees and you like 3 heaped brown sugars in your coffee and you like 4 coffees a day, and that's not the only sugar you're getting, then it's just a way of managing, because we're not saints and we do need sugars and boosts and drugs to keep us going, nicotine, caffeine, sugar, etc., alcohol to bring us back down. So we have to then look at how we manage the body, help the body to manage those pollutants and excrete it and not store it in us, but get rid of it healthily and protect a little bit. And there's more than that you can do. It's just a basic change or something that when you get sick, we have lemon and hot toddies and whiskies and waters. Everyone's got a remedy, or your grandma's got a remedy for when you get sick. But we're looking at remedies, everyday remedies, if you like,
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. You can have a nice bicarb solution, which is very alkalizing into the body. It's good for external and internal uses if you've got, excessive fungus, candida, foot rot, mouth ulcers, cervical cancer, all these types of things. But yeah, if people are still consuming these types of foods at the moment, and they're looking for something, or they want to feel something so they can move forward in their journey, because a lot of people, they say they want to feel something to really know that there's something other than the material world, and I just suggest removing the pollutants from your diet. First of all, one by one, you don't have to do it in a day, but it's good to start removing the fluoride. It's good to start removing the toothpaste. It's good to stop using washing powder on your clothes.
So
It's
I
good
like
to
the way you
stop
say
using. It's good to stop using the liquids that we clean our dishes with, because they are very toxic and cause irreversible effects to aquatic life. Reference the back of them. So if that's going into your body, it's keeping you desensitized to the truth. The coffees, the sugar, the sugar itself is 10 times more addictive than crack. It's not easy to give up. A lot of people still consume it. I suggest just finding a replacement, like honey or dates. If you're looking for a hot drink or a hot cocoa, instead of having sugar or a sea ad breeze drink, you could look at putting natural cacao powder. You could blend up maybe 5 dates with that and boil that in some wonderful hot water, and you'll find yourself having the most creamiest hot chocolate that you ever knew existed. But the facts are, you ain't given this information by the media. You're not going to be given it very readily, very easily. You're not going to be taught it in any schools, any system, any chef books, all these things. It's kind of something that you have to figure out yourself, or we can share among the conscious community. So if you do boil up your water, put the dates inside the water with it so they can leach all the dates, make them soft, maybe put a little bit of hemp milk that you've made yourself. Easy. Hemp seeds, water, blend, strain in your cup, done. Me myself, I don't consume any pollutants at all. I spent a long time reversing everything, understanding how every type of food form affects the physical body. So I'm really in tune with, my body, the foods that are out there, what foods I should be consuming or we should be consuming as human species. So it's been great for me to be able to teach this. But again, the level that I'm at is hard to reach. It's not something that you can expect someone to do overnight. I
No,
spent a
exactly.
long
That entry level, yeah, I appreciate that about you. You spend a great deal of time looking in yourself, at yourself, around the world, and I'm not trying to take it away from you, but we are at the beginning level for most of these. We call them initiates. I call my scribes initiates of self, and we'd
yeah.
like them to start looking at easy, simple ways to look to attain towards self-mastery, as you say there. Continue on, yeah, at
Just
your
do
levels, the
things,
way you got, yeah.
do
Thank you,
things
bro.
yourself. Just do things yourself is going to take it away from the commercial world doing it for you. If you made a pizza yourself, how much healthier would that be than eating one with 900 different ingredients? It's, there's two things that will taste better if you do it yourself. It's just your time. And how are you going to spend your time? Are you going to spend your time zoned out on a television, or are you going to spend your time improving yourself and finding out that there's something other than your perception that you have right now? So, take your baby steps, do as you need. If you are taking the steps to do food yourself, remember that pesticides are sprayed on most food, even on organic food. Um, they have water insoluble chemicals sprayed on them to stop bugs eating them. So if there's water insoluble, it's going to be hard to get them off with just water. So another tip, if you do wash your stuff, get a nice bit of cheap vinegar, 100% vinegar from, the internet or just some standard vinegar. Wash it with vinegar and bicarb, and then have a secondary wash just of clean water, and you'll find that you can wash off all the chemical residue. So that's another thing that can improve your health.
Oh, nice one. That is a little golden nugget right there. That's why you are a sovereign superstar for us and for me. Little things like that help along. If we When we premiere this, I'd like to see the room now. I can see the room going, oh, well, and there'll be more recommendations coming in or alternatives depending on your availability and what you've got. I want to ask your opinion as well before the end of the show. Hear this. The government have put taxes on companies that use a lot of sugar. What's wrong with sugar? And we want to, if you quite, and I don't know how to put this respectfully, but I'll say it like this: if you're quite what's the word now, a portly, bigger size, and you have a lot of sugar, and if you get ill and you contract COVID, it is saying that you possibly might have a harder time with it. So I'll leave that there. We don't necessarily believe that. That's what the public mouthpiece has said from the Health Scientific Department for the United Kingdom. With that said, they issued vouchers and told everybody to go and get burgers and eat out. Remember that one as well. But also, they some years ago started to reduce the sugar in their drinks and replace the sugar, Josh, and they've reformulated a lot of the food and a lot of the sugary drinks. And I know you're aware of this, but I just want your opinion on when they take out full fat, drinks and put them into the diet range, and they reformulate the food, because we have a Food and Drug Administration here. We have drugs and food mixed together, and the management of these commercial processed products that are, in tins and packets and plastics and freezers. So we had the debacle of Jamie Oliver and the Twizzlers there. I'm not going to mention the man who makes them, but they've now come out going, yes, we've made them better. They contain 60% meat and they've got less this and less that, but they have to be humdrum and quartered in the public and shown to be the dirty little, greedy, kneeling at the foot of greed, not standing on the feet and shoulders of giants. And so we've got a government who make legislation, everyone, to look after us, they do, because they love us and they care for us. And it's all these big, mean, greedy companies, food production companies. Stop using less sugar because you're making people bigger and they can't control what they eat. And so we're going to have to control their diet for them, tell them what to eat, when to eat it, and we're going to tell you lot not to use as much sugar. So they've done as they've been told, and they've started putting in alternatives to sugar like phenylane. I can never say that. I know it's not that hard to say, but it's just a word that escapes me. Aspartame, sucralose, and others, E numbers and chemical artificial that make people on the spectrum of autism go absolutely apeshit, pardon the French family, but mums and dads, you'll know what I mean. I was an E110, you know, I couldn't have that because if I did, my mum would not be able to control me for hours. So we have, one hand, it's healthier not to have sugar, and what we're going to give you is these other chemical, like pollutant fluoride that I said that they're then used in water and products, these kind of products coming back in place of sugar because it's healthier for you and we love you. I'll yield there, you know. Oh.
Yeah, you know, when the public start to see, you know, that sugar has some sort of negative effect, they need to find a way to be able to establish a new advertisement or a new product so they can move away from something that the publics tend to have collectively seen as something that has negative effects. Just as smoking, you know, just as the dairy and meat industry now, we've got the vegan agenda, and you know, we should be looking at holistic plants and how to alchemically arrange them to taste good if we want nice food, you know. And this is something that's there, is something that can be brought in and taught quite easily and readily available, but it doesn't make money for the industries. And again, if a society is using products that create waste, the waste does have to be put somewhere. And unfortunately, it's put back into the foods of the ignorant. So we must become aware and understand fully what's in these foods. Just as sugar, like I was saying, is 10 times more addictive than crack. It's 5 grams, stops your immune system working for 4 hours. It feeds candida, which is your cancer, which grows it. So all of these negative effects that have been put there, you know, we need to take our own initiations and grow and learn and remove these things. And in doing so, our consciousness rises as well.
Hey, Matthew in Sheffield's got a song there, sugar's more addictive than cocaine, sugar's more addictive than cocaine. Yeah, he sings it to his daughter and son and so forth to let them know, you know, watch out for it because it's that dangerous. And you get it from your mum when you're about, or your dad, and they're generally your mum, in the form of a white chocolate milky consistency at the checkout when you're about 2. Here, son or daughter, have some chocolatey drugs, which is white recycled cane sugar is what the sugary type is in there, refined, not recycled, cane sugar, which is the worst type, isn't it? So there's many other forms of natural sweeteners we could use, but it's the cheap aspect for the maximum profit, isn't it? So
Yeah, I mean, the sugar cane itself, you can juice it, and the juice doesn't really cause any harm to the body at all. What is causing the massive harm is the breakdown, the destruction, the processing of it into this white crystal. You know,
yeah,
like we have crystal meth, we have crystal sugar, we have crystal caffeine, we have crystal cocaine. Just as if Coca-Cola used to use sugar and cocaine, they now use sugar and caffeine because the public caught onto cocaine and it was made an illegal substance. You know, the dentists still use these things. The difference between it
But,
illegal,
but, 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 but before it was illegal, what a crazy ingredient to use in a soft everyday beverage for all the family. You know, how
it's
can it be?
crazy.
Good Lord, you know, of all the ingredients, even let's just say, just on that, you know, even when it was legal, then imagine the world at the time. Who made that decision and why? And you know, incredible was it being used in medicine? It just shows you that we don't need the governances of others to tell us we have got the right to choose to govern and manage our own selves, and dietary, politically, financially, spiritually. I hope this video and this chat has helped to reiterate that. And it's been, I'm not saying we're finishing right now, but I'd like to close down soon, Josh. I know you haven't got a lot all evening either, but it has been great to resonate with you again and to just casually take a walk through the chemical debacle of this valley of the shadow of giant corporations and sugars and chemicals. It's yeah, thank you, brother.
It's completely ridiculous to think that there was a business out there, I don't know, maybe 130 years ago, that was making drinks out of cocaine and sugar. You know, and if we can translate that, the people that are surviving is these days, you know, we're looking at the offset of that now. So maybe between 65 and 100, that's the average age of survival, apart from doctors who prescribe, and they've got a lower or the lowest life expectancy of about 56 years of age. But can you imagine what the life expectancy is going to be from these new types of food that are out there, which are completely manufactured, man-made, and even more acid forming to the body now? You know, right now, God bless him and all of us and our love. We've got a wonderful 14-year-old boy from Melbourne, Australia, named Lucas. So we'll send him our love vibration with a pineal gland tumor.
Okay.
And the doctors, they call it a teratoma as well. What it is a massive amount of calcification over it, but they wanted to remove it. And unfortunately, he went through some of the medical side of it, but his family have been pushed and forced, let's say, and coerced into this with a 100% cure. They were actually told, and they are semi-holistic, and they always told themselves they would never do any of the standard treatment. But they got dragged in. They ended up, you know, making a hole in the boy's head to drain the fluid off his brain, and he has to have a tube to be able to excrete his poo right now. He was unable to walk and talk, etc. We've had him with us for 5 days, and
So
he's
it
already.
went wrong. The operation went drastically wrong then. Is
What
that
it
what you
was is
say?
they
Side
they
effects,
they
undesired
irra-
side effects, yeah.
yeah, they irradiated him, obviously, which kills completely the good side of your body, the bad cells, the good cells. So what they say is, you know, there's no more cancer there, but what there is there's a big lump or a teratoma on the gland, and we need to remove the gland. You know, the pineal gland being the most precious secretor of all. So this obviously wasn't really a thing that the family wanted to go in, so they've reached out to us now. Because the teratoma really is just a calcification from all of the modern
Yeah.
day diet, day foods, the water,
Pollution,
etc.
free
Which
radicals collecting, yeah.
they don't know what it is. They said it can grow teeth, that it can grow nails, and things like this. But all it is
Oh, okay. I've seen one of them in a Ripley's, believe it or not, and it was a massive outside tumour that somebody had with things like that in it. So you were saying earlier that they've been with you, and I interjected, and they've been with you
five,
sometime, or is you on?
just
Sorry.
just just 5 days. We've put them through a quick healing protocol, and they're going to follow and be by our side for the next few months. But already after day 5, he was walking in his garden sipping orange juice with his mum and dad, taking baby steps and having small conversations. And previous to that, he was unable to speak and walk. So in just a matter of 5 days, something with such a serious injury as that caused by the world can be healed by the earth very rapidly. Your body is not sick.
Well done,
The
lad.
food that you consume and your lifestyles make you sick. You know, but this sickness is only pushing you and your consciousness towards the truth, which is the healing nature of the earth. So again, this is the world and this is the earth. The world had to offer them uh, a treatment that did not help. It caused more issues. And the earth offers you the holistic healing and the health. What will you choose, and where will you be in a year's time? You know, we love you all with the bottom of our hearts, and we want you to grow, and we want you to take action, because your action is your karma. Your karma is the armor of your K, and the K is the balance that's within all of us. So what we need to do is arm ourselves with balance between the masculine and feminine energies, the left brain and the right brain, to understand who we are. We are not persons. We are not corporations. We have the ability to do commerce with that world if we choose to, until we're ready to be with the earth. But we are not corporations. We are men. We are womb men. We are mankind, and we are all kind until we get the ego into play, which is only exacerbated by left brain worldly movement. Do not fear your government, fear yourself. You are your own worst enemy. Your thoughts are your demons. Demons do not exist apart from in your thoughts. You can create an abundance. I suggest, if you have some friends that resonate with you, you have family, or you have anybody that's willing to take a step with you, if you have a mortgage, if you have a house, if you have a car, just 20 people with £10,000, £200,000. Go and find yourself a wonderful piece of land for £20,000 in the Mediterranean. In those countries, you can have wood standing houses without any planning permission. Find yourself a well, dig a well for £4,000, plant an abundance of fruit and vegetables. For £25,000, you can have your initiation there. If you start with camper vans or do whatever you've got to do, tents or anything, it's very important that you grow your own food. Within 1 year, there will be a food crisis. There will be a position that you will be put in to force you to get vaccines because you won't be allowed the food that the corporation will be giving you until you have, because everybody in that time, everybody in that presence will be afraid of you because they'll be so conditioned to that mindset that you will be the one that will bring toxicity to people. We don't want the food. We don't want their commerce. We can do this ourselves. We're all special. We're all clever, and we're all made of light. How far can you shine?
Oh wow, that was some. No, I'm not going to follow that. I'm not even going to try to. I'm going to say what he said. Bosh, you've only got yourselves to look at, nobody else. Yeah, I'll echo that and say, brother, it's been excellent. Are we wrapping up here then? And
I
I'll
can
end
do
the
another,
recording.
I can do another 10, 12 minutes. But if you want to wrap up whenever you're ready, my brother, I just want to make sure that everybody can start to let go of the fear. There's no need to fear your government. There's no need. There's no need to fear the police, which are the policy for the government. You live in a penal system, which is all pen, and you give away your freedom by your signature, which is your sign of nature. What you need to do is not create contracts with the devil, which is the corporate world. If you look at the word Lego, it's L ego. And this is the side of commercial. If you see the first movie, they put it into perspective. They have everybody doing monotonous things
Hmm.
over and over again, knocking down buildings, rebuilding them, consuming the wrong food. You know, they speak of the truth in that movie. It is literally, Lord business is the devil. Busyness is busyness. It keeps you busy. If you find time to think, to be still, you'll find the truth. Busyness, work keeps you poor. The earth is abundant and rich. And I can honestly say, I've seen a lot of people change and I've helped a lot of people change. And I can never see anybody change quicker than picking fruit, growing it, picking it. They get lost in that interaction. There's no thought, and they're in a pure state of bliss just by being one. And they're not thinking about anything, it's the actions that they're doing. You were born here to be procreative with the earth. You reap what you sow, and it is time for the action. Act your ion and make that change. Everything's free. Everything's free.
The
And, you
best
know,
things in life are free. Remember that tune? Is it Jackson and King or somebody? Martin Luther.
you are free, Dave. You know, you're
Yeah.
innately free until you believe that you're not.
I am a
Because
free
there's,
spirit. I know this now. I've got to that point. Yeah, we're bringing others up to this point now, and we've got some things to bring to you later on. Um, while you're still local this way, that I talked to you about the other day. We've got our eyes on the prize, so to speak, and we have
yeah,
got the men are going to rise and not rise as in up out in the street violently, but the Walking Dead, the zombies. Like I was saying to you earlier, may I just say what I said earlier when we weren't recording about the
yeah,
money and the graves? Then that might be a good segue to put that in over the man that's laid to rest, or the woo man that's laid in the coffin in the ground, is entered into the ground, INTO, but it's called INTERED, interred, and you are inter resting for your eternal rest, at rest eternally. So you are interested into the ground in the coffin at your burial. And I was explaining to Josh, with a heart attack situation, the ambulance, paramedic, doctors, medical team arrive and they get the paddles and they put the spark across your arrested heart, and they will spark and get the heart going from the arrest. So we have charges being applied in an electric form of a spark and an arc across the heart to bring the dead back to life. When an officer or a corporation makes claims, they're normally charged. and you're classed as an entity, a legal person, which we've proven is dead. Birth certification may include stillbirth and it may exclude birth. We've yet to confirm this. We're on the way of doing that, either or. How do they interpret that? So it's not funny, and we don't gain a lot of friends by talking like this. And it's just an interesting area. So we move on to the bank, and we brought you the currency and the rivers and the banks and the flow, and how that high street branches, river has branches, mainstream, and flow currency. You're all up on that. Bursting of banks, bankruptcy, and furthermore. So now we go to the bank with the debt, and the debt and the dead are classed in their occult, secret, codified language of it's very close to one another, dead and debt, dead debts, and etc. So the bank holds debt, and the more debt the bank has, the higher the interest, and the interest is applied on the debt. And these words aren't used for any other reason than to be exactly what they're there for. And it's the key part of, like what I said, if the doctor's only treating the symptoms, we don't get to the heart of the matter, to the core, and we don't eradicate the primary aggressor, and it will more than likely, the symptoms will come back again once being treated. So we go to the heart of the matter with etymological roots and meanings, and your Latin and Francais and Greek and cuneiform and cuneiform and Germanic, and we've been all over. And we found Josh was the monosyllabic, and I was the language etymologically interested soul here, and it never stopped. It's a torrent. So what we can say is that there is a public commercial world that we've left behind. In the scriptures, you'll find the man there saying, I am of this world, but I play no part in it, of it. So actors take to the stage, use the person for that, and the banking and the finance and the commercial public is to do with death and debt and misery and pestilence and heartache. And if you didn't believe that we was, if you didn't believe us in any way, then there's videos and things that we've got, publications, proclamations, we've got professors and lords and all that you could want, as well as Josh and I and the family and the rest of YouTube and the .com and Facebook in our different and unique ways. All opinions and comments are wanted. So we can prove time after time again, calmly, methodically, and sadly. And these are the things that we want to get, changed, or we don't think that we could ever change this system. Josh helped me realise that the system will be here. There is a positive and a negative. There is an unfortunate and an unfortunate. There is a finite and an infinite, and it will continue on. I've seen now, and I've come to realise. So it's information being viewed through a new perspective of a consciousness. And once you view that information, when you've had a chat with us and you've seen our work, then that same information you viewed before, that's still the same, with your new clarity, you see more into it. And that's the penny drop moment that only you lot can get through putting in the effort and time. And all we're going to do, I said at the beginning on top of this, that I view Josh and I as some kind of aggregate that would help bring foreign objects and stick them together. Like in a builder's mix, you get an aggregation mix. I'm doing a lot of manual work at the moment, inside, trying to earn a living and make the things flow till we get where we need to go. Flow, yes, water, exactly. Stay in the flow, and it's an aggregate effect we have. He has, I have, and others like the viewers that are actively with their own channels and videos and works. We bond, and I'd like to see that bond now. The only thing that I'm bonded by are natural, positive laws of the universal nature. If it comes to man-made, written, codified laws, secular, Roman especially, I might have a problem with them, and I don't think I'm bound by them at all. But I'll yield there. Just wanted to say thank you very much for listening.
At any given time, with an entity that's not alive, there's always going to have to be some sort of script or a protocol or a prosecution. So what you need to understand is that you are, at every given chance, have the capabilities and the possibilities to be null and void of all these contracts. Just because there was previous contracts created with your ill awareness or your unawareness or your misinformation, it doesn't mean that this moment and this time and this action, you don't have the ability to overstand them, overcome them. For one, everybody knows. No, they don't. I will correct that. There is information that will prove to you that you are in a business under the branch of the United Kingdom. If you check the company's house, you'll see it's registered there. So if your country or all the countries are registered businesses, it would be good to find out how they operate. Now, if you look at the Prime Minister, I'm not sure if she still is because I really don't look at the TV or news or see any sort of social media. Theresa May, she was on, I think there's quite a few clips on YouTube of her speaking that we are police by consent. Now, it's not going to be given to you. You're going to find clippets that allow thought forms within you to manifest. So what you should try to do with that is to realize that if I'm policed by consent, what is consent and how do I get this consent? Who am I? Why did they ask for my name? The word name itself is not me. It's not me. I'm here. So if someone's asking who you are, you're right in front of them. But the name is a corporate entity. So if you agree to contract with them that you are the corporate entity, now you physically, with your own powers, have agreed to be a piece of paper that is a commercial instrument. Now, the understanding of that can drop all your fear if you truly know that at any given moment, the policy have no control over you, no grasp over you until you've given yourself over to the ideology that you're a piece of paper, you're a dead instrument used for commercial purposes. Like the word
Considered, yeah, you considered the dead industry. I know I'm just helping out, but we have got we've got a second layer, second tier who've done the key competence, basic 101, mastery, self, and we've given that away, and we'd like to just, we're going to help out. We've got a lot of publications to bring, and in many areas, but we're doing it in order, Josh, and yes, I'll forward on to you in due course when they're all ready. There's about 12 new things for you to look at, and I've also going to promote some other videos and playlists that would help others out if they each like physical, visual, or not. But yeah, I need to go through my brother as well, and I don't want to get into law and persons because that's another hour or three that they'll end up with. But yeah, if you want to wrap up.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
been a pleasure, my brother. It's been an absolute pleasure to reconnect with you. And just to say that my YouTube channel, we've traveled Europe and found wonderful space for us to start this journey. So all we're looking to do is allow it to manifest naturally and organically. So that was a big part of our journey to know where we wanted to be. Now we found that space. It's incredible. So really now we're here to just share love, abundance, information, health, healing. So I just done my first video recently. I done a tiny few etymology ones, but that was previous to before we started traveling to find this land. So I will be doing a lot more on YouTube, and especially Dave, if you have me, it'd be great to start doing our chats again because I really love reciprocating with you because you have one of the most wonderful minds out there, and really are
Unique,
a
unique, yeah.
wonderful,
Thank
yeah,
you.
you are, and you're a wonderful ball of energy that you keep pressing forward, you keep moving forward, you keep sharing it, and you're relentless with the information that you give. So shout out to you. So yes, I'll be here from now on. If anybody needs healing, anybody's got any family members or just a bit of advice, come over to the channel, drop a comment on the video. I think there'll be a link to maybe our Instagram, Facebook, and all these types of
You
things.
send
And
me all of the relevant links when we premiere this, then I'll put them in the description. So I'll get that sorted for you, brother. No problem.
well, it's been
Oh,
an absolute pleasure, and love and light to everybody listening. And I wish you all the best, all the health, and hope you find yourself.
nice one. Yes, I echo that. Lots of love to one and all. We shall end here and say thank you, brother. I'll stop the recording. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Ciao, bello.
Bye.